If you've been sourcing on Amazon for over a month now and you're still struggling to find profitable products, I can guarantee you it's because you don't know what you don't know. I made a recent post on my Twitter talking about why newer sellers have a hard time with arbitrage, and it simply comes down to what is your expectations around the type of products you're finding, and most importantly, what you consider a good product to actually be. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to become better than 99% of other Amazon sellers who are doing this stuff, because your analysis does play a big part into the role of how many profitable products you're finding on a daily basis. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the video here. So how to find more profitable products than 99% of sellers in 15 minutes or less. So I'm going to be walking through in this video a few different things. So why you guys probably are struggling to find products on an expectation level, why you can't find products on a procedural level, and then also how to actually reverse this stuff and find profitable products from your mental and procedural aspects. So essentially, the first thing, guys, is that you're going to think when you're starting arbitrage because of all of the things that you have to listen to about, like, look for this, look for that, look for that. And the third, every product is going to be a home run. Okay. A lot of you guys are looking from the lens that every product has to operate and look like something like this. So let's say that you're buying a product like this for $8, okay, and it sells 1,000 times a month, okay. Most people, when they're not even starting arbitrage, but as they grow in arbitrage, they think in terms of like all in on the data, which is super important. Don't get me wrong. Data is how we make decisions, but you need to also be able to remove yourself and think, what is my goal with buying profitable products? It's to buy profitable products. It is to buy products that are going to make me money. So some people literally only stick to buying one archetype of product. I made a tweet on this, and I also made a YouTube video piggybacking that about risk to reward analysis. A lot of people don't use any form of a risk to reward analysis to determine their actual buying decisions. So they're using stuff like this product here, which is a perfect data set for, okay, moves really well. It's overall pretty stable. You know, there's no issues with it, right? Like overall, it's a really good product. I'm not saying you guys won't find these type of products, because they certainly exist and they are very abundant. But at the same time, why don't we also look towards products that maybe they don't sell 50 times a month? Maybe they don't have a buy box. Maybe they're not perfect, but at the end of the day, if we can see returns like this, that can be very beneficial. So that's the first thing, is that most people are looking for home runs every single day, when base hits is what builds the foundation. The next thing is that you're probably sourcing products that you've been told are good, or simply that you're just very comfortable with. So again, we can use a product example like this, to where if you've never sourced a product without a buy box and you're limiting yourself because you don't know what you don't know, but you've seen other sellers selling products without a buy box, maybe if you find good market trend to where offer count is stable or down, you can see that the overall trend of the price history is also very stable. Why not go ahead and give those products a shot? Right? Or if you, again, you're not sourcing stuff that sells without a monthly sold, why not give that a shot? Does the monthly sold dictate that this product sells? No, it's the offers, right? If Keepa offers are moving, we know that other people are selling out of this product. Okay, so not being afraid to branch out of your comfort zone will explode your catalog over time, because it will open the door and give you your actual palette as to what you want to, like, what you want to buy and what you want to skip. Because a lot of people skip everything and then complain that they can't find nothing. But again, you guys are looking for all home runs, when you should be thinking purely in terms of, is this going to make me money reliably? And if I don't know, let me do some test buys, right? And then again, you guys are probably thinking that finding profitable products is one dimensional from an analysis and a methodology to find profitable products. So you're likely just looking at the best of the best. Okay, if something is like minorly off from the analysis point of view, you feel like it's not a good enough product, or methodically, you are simply only doing reverse sourcing. And then when you find a product that's profitable, let's say you find this Walgreens product that's profitable, you're not going in to Keep a Product Finder and looking for the Walgreens brand in a brand search, right? So like these two are kind of the same brand. So you're not looking at the Finest Nutrition and Walgreens brand. Why? Right? Yeah, again, you're one dimensional with your process, to where you're thinking in terms of, what can I do only today to make money? But if you're saving leads over time, building an ecosystem, subscribing to sales newsletters so that you can start doing manual sourcing in the future, then you start to branch out and actually grow your catalog from many different angles, which is how you actually build a real business out of this stuff. Okay. And then that kind of leads me into the second point, which is why you're struggling to find products from a procedural problem, is first of all, that you're likely not starting with good starting points. So when I used to start sourcing back when I was a newer seller. I'm not even joking. I would start on starting points like this, to where there was maybe one or two sellers. The offers were super flat. There was no movement. There was no indicators that this would be a good arbitrage starting point, which if you guys don't know exactly what a good starting point is, you can take a look at my YouTube channel. I've made a video on this already, but essentially we want to look for products where we can see that it would be like, if the product was profitable, can we see that like there's other sellers on it? And it doesn't even have to be profitable, so I don't know why I said that, but yeah, you just want to see like, are other people doing arbitrage? So we can use this Crown Affair product as an example here. Okay, so this might not be the most ideal product to buy because offers are on the rise, but in terms of a starting point, this is a great place to actually start looking for other sellers to storefront stock. Why? Well, because we can see that there is a nice healthy amount of competition between people who are selling this product. We can see that everybody is pricing, sort of differently, which shows that this is obviously not wholesale, right? Nobody's abiding by a certain market price. Okay, people are selling in and out, and the velocity and all this stuff really doesn't matter when it comes to a starting point. You just want to see an indicator of movement and competitiveness, because that tells you that people are competing like arbitrage sellers would. Because when you're doing arbitrage, you only want a small piece of the pie. Okay. And then another thing to think about is, what is like the average review count of a lot of sellers who are on this listing? So we can see there's a nice healthy spread of review counts. But if this listing contained only people who had, what was that, 1,600 reviews, probably a bad sign that this is not going to be a starting point that's going to contain good storefronts. And if you're not sourcing off of good storefronts, you're obviously not going to find profitable inventory. Okay, so that's the first thing. Secondly, is you guys don't have a framework to actually find profitable products consistently. So if you're not sourcing with a actual proven methodology, that is obviously not going to help your case. So in my opinion, using Keepa Product Finder is the best way to reverse source, because you get to essentially take everything out of people's stores that you don't want to see, and you only focus on the stuff that they sell that would potentially work for your buying needs. So if we use a storefront like this, for example, I'm not going to run through this guy's entire Keepa catalog and, source stuff that I can't sell from Lululemon or Ryobi or other brands like that. Maybe I want to focus more on the brands like Diux, however you say that, Jellycat, right? Maybe like Westman Atelier, like smaller beauty brands, because this guy carries a lot of beauty. So if you're not using Keepa Product Finder and, using your filters to your advantage, so if you don't want to see any products that Amazon is in stock, if you need products with a buy box, okay, you need to be using Keepa Product Finder. And then this way you can use and paste their seller IDs and then go and actually storefront stock with Keepa Product Finder to have a more targeted search on the things that you actually want to source. Okay, so you also need a framework to actually find profitable products. And that is also a framework that branches into other opportunities, right? So you shouldn't just be storefront stalking. You should be storefront stalking, saving leads that are almost good, coming back to those leads, saving the brands that you can't sell right now because they'll probably auto and gate in the future, checking in on some products that are gated, because if again you get auto approved in the future, if you can find leads today, you may actually be able to sell those later, which would result in profits that you get from doing the hard stuff today. So you should always be trying to grow your ecosystem, not just in a one-dimensional way, but signing up to email lists, saving almost good leads, building out a replens catalog as you continue to go wider and wider with your catalog. And then eventually you can get in a VA, they can start helping you out and all that kind of stuff. Okay, and then the last thing is that thinking that good products just exist on the front page of Google and don't need additional couponing. So if we take a look at a product like this Walgreens example here, a lot of people, if they were to look for this on Google, would see it's $26.99 and there's a 20% code, and they would essentially just do a computation of 20% and would think, oh, there's no way this is going to be profitable. Most of you might be giving up too early and you don't even realize it, to where let's just see if this product has a chance. Okay, now we can see there's a buy one, get one free. We didn't see that before. So this is already 20 times more close to being profitable than it was before. Is there any other discounts that we can see on the front page of Walgreens that might indicate, hey, we actually might be able to make this profitable? I don't know. Let me see if they have an email sign up area for like email and text sign up. Okay, doesn't look like they have anything. Well, maybe they have some coupon codes on Cooper, right? So we can see they have a bunch of codes here, up to 30% off orders. Okay, so these are like more of like posters and things like that, but like up to 30% off orders. You can see they still have that 20%. So a lot of people give up way too early in the couponing process. They also don't try different things. So like if this thing was out of stock, maybe go ahead and take it and put it into like a private browser, right? See if there's something wrong with like your cookies that are not allowing you to see current stock and things like that. So a big thing is that you should not think that good products are just going to be found on the front page of Google. You have to put in the work to coupon them. Now, that doesn't mean every product you come across is going to be profitable, of course, but you should be very conscious that like, I'm going to have to do some form of work to make this buy cost beneficial. And then once you do that, you're going to start seeing that you're probably going to start finding more profitable products. I had this problem with like one of my old VAs to where he would literally just look on Google. If it wasn't close to being profitable, like at all, he would totally disregard it. And that's where a lot of people miss out. So again, $26.99, divide that by 2 because it's buy one, get one free. We're taking 20% off additionally. And then if Walgreens has gift cards, which I think is at like 9% right now, all right, this is somewhat close. It's not good, but maybe this is something you save in a lead sheet and periodically check back in to see, hey, is there maybe another promotion Walgreens might run in the future? Okay. Prime example of building out a catalog today that might not be profitable, but in a couple days time, in a week time, month time, you may actually be able to catch some deals that other sellers are not aware of because they're not taking that extra mile. And that is essentially how the fix of everything is you're just doing the opposite of what you're probably not doing. So don't look for the hottest products, just find steady and solid returns. So maybe if you're finding a profitable product on Walgreens, let's say that looks like this, are you actually going into Product Finder and looking for every single product that you find to be a home run? Or are you looking for just base hits, right? And a simple way to think about it is like, are you being too tight with your filters? So if we were only looking at products that sold 50 a month, we only see 6 products. Why not just take the 50 a month off and see if you can find profitable inventory that doesn't sell 50 a month? I used to be really bad about this in the beginning to where if it wasn't a perfect match to what I was looking for, it's a skip. The bigger sellers that you guys see who are doing really well with this stuff, including myself, are people who took the time to actually test different like scenarios and different Keepa charts and, get experience, because products sell a lot faster than you guys actually think on Amazon. And this is a good way to expand your catalog, is by trying new things that you don't know of yet. So you could see we went from 6 to 38 products. And if we take a look at some of these leads here, right? I mean, we can just see like this, nicotine pouch here. Okay. It's definitely not very fast selling at all, but I mean, there is some movement here, and we can further validate if this thing actually moves well based on the offers tab in Keepa here, and then hitting historical offers. And would you look at that? We can see this guy is clearly selling units. We can see this R4 marketplace guy is too. If we look back even further than that, we can see this guy's been on this listing for forever, right? So people are making money on stuff that you might be passing on simply because you lack the experience to actually have buying conviction on listings like this. Starting with good starting points is obviously going to create great arbitrage opportunity. We went over that earlier. Sourcing seller reviews that are lower, as those naturally have more arbitrage opportunity. So that's another great fix that you guys should be implementing. Don't be looking for sellers who have, 500 reviews or something crazy like that, 688, right? Probably not the best guys to storefront stock if you're just starting out. Why? Like you want to be surrounding yourself with people in your similar situation. So if you only have a couple reviews, maybe you should look for the sellers that have, 20, 30, 40, 50, because these people have likely been in the game not too much longer than you, which means the products that they are finding, you're going to probably be able to find and sell yourself, right? So we can see like somebody like this, 13 reviews, might be worth a shot to open, okay? Using Keepa Product Finder to storefront stock with filters, all right? Again, got to be using Keepa Product Finder. It just makes your life so much easier. And then making sure to look for additional discounts on products within reasonable retail prices. So again, I probably wouldn't waste too much time with stuff to where, the initial price on Google is like way over retail. But even in this Walgreens example where that kind of negates the rule, if you guys are seeing that there's already codes being advertised, probably worth a shot to actually go ahead and open the listing and just quickly scan to see, hey, is this profitable, right? Now, if it's something maybe like this Crown Affair listing to where we can see it's like 48 bucks, but we can then see that there's a 20% on Crown Affair potentially, that's something I'd look into. If there wasn't any 20%, maybe you're a little bit more conservative with your time and you would maybe move on to something else simply because you think, well, I'm not going to be able to find this for 40% off or something like that within reason, right? But at the end of the day, you guys shouldn't be passing when these places are just giving you sales and things you should be looking for, because a lot of people just pass and give up too quick. And that's essentially going to be how you guys can get better than 99% of your competition. If you notice, the overall theme in this video is literally just to do the things that your competitors are not willing to do, right? So with their expectations, they're all looking for home runs. They all want to sell the 5,000 a month, crazy fast selling listing that they can just restock over and over and over whatever. That is not how you build a sustainable business, okay? Or they're only sourcing stuff they're comfortable with. They're one-dimensional when they analyze products. So literally just do the opposite of what your competitors are doing. Build out a steady ecosystem over time. Don't think that all your profit is going to come from one day of sourcing, and you will be better than 99% of other sellers on Amazon. So I hope this video gave you a little bit more context as some of the things that I've noticed that have really helped me grow, but not only just myself, some other smaller sellers that I've just been engaging with in the community. So if you guys like this video, definitely feel free to give me some feedback on it. And not only that, if you guys are also interested, I have a free newsletter that I run in the link in the description below. I post once a week on Wednesdays giving free game about how to start or scale Amazon online arbitrage. You should definitely go ahead and check it out if you're interested. Thought out of the way, that will be all for me in this one. So I will see you guys in the next episode.